We all know that Disney needs to make a boatload of money with Snow White. There's been a lot of delays, even more reshoots, and a ton of marketing for this film. But so far, things are not looking so positive. The critics have not loved it the way that we anticipated. It's sitting at a 45%. The audience reviews are finally starting to roll in, and those are not looking so positive. But while the mainstream media is trying to spin this movie as like a smashing success, it really isn't because this movie opened 46% worse than even the Marvels. But before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, I never expected this movie to do all that good. Did I think it was going to be a total failure? No. This is Disney we're talking about. They have a very dedicated and passionate fan base. Plus, there are a lot of adults, I'm sure, that are trying to find something for their kid to do and find something for their kid to watch. And Snow White is what is in theaters. It doesn't have a lot of competition for the next 2 weeks. So it does have an opportunity to make a lot of money. I just do not think things are looking particularly good given everybody on social media is sharing photos and screenshots, I guess, of their theaters and how empty they are and how there are no tickets being sold for certain showings around them. So that is terrible, but the numbers are in and they're damning. Disney's troubled live-action Snow White remake earned a paltry 3.5 million in the Thursday box office preview showings. That figure alone would be embarrassing for any Disney tentpole, but when you stack it against Marvel Studios' widely panned flop The Marvels, the situation becomes downright catastrophic. Now, the mainstream media is trying to say that this is actually good, that it's doing pretty solid right now, and those are only the Thursday numbers, and you need to give it a chance. And sure, over the weekend, I bet that it's going to do okay, but they need it to do amazing, right? They have pumped hundreds of millions of dollars into it. This realistically needs to make $800 million for them to really make a profit, and I just don't see that happening. It says the Marvels, which has become a cautionary tale within the Disney machine, still managed 6.5 million in Thursday preview, so that is a very drastic difference. That's nearly 46% higher than Snow White's opening night take. And what happened to the Marvels after that soft start? It went on to open to just 46 million and earned just 206 million worldwide through its entire run. Now, initially, they were hoping that Snow White's opening weekend domestically was going to make 60 to 65 million, and then that dropped in the 50s and now it is in the 40s, which just is not a good look. Now imagine what lies ahead for Snow White, a film burdened with an eye-watering 250 million plus budget, a wave of bad press, a rotten 46% critic score, and a lead actress who has alienated large swaths of the audience. If Rachel Zegler had just been respectful to the fans, I think that this could have gone better for them, but ultimately, she is not the only problem because this is a total reimagining. There's 6 new songs in this. They removed existing songs for these more like progressive and feminist songs, which is terrible. They are no longer like highlighting the romance. We know that they have a heavy message behind this where Rachel Zegler's Snow White is trying to like liberate her people, and she's trying to be a leader, and she's trying to be fierce and brave and the leader her father wanted her to become, which was not in the original. And there are a lot of people who, yes, just do not want to see it because of the rewrites. It says, though, each outlet has rushed out glowing headlines bending over backward to spin the disastrous opening. THR even had the audacity to call the 3.5 million haul promising while comparing it to an underwhelming 2.8 million preview of Dumbo. Yeah, I don't think that anybody takes a comparison with Dumbo seriously because Snow White is a flagship princess for them, the princess for them. Okay? We should not be comparing these numbers to something like Dumbo, a film that was not a success, but a film that also did not have even a quarter of the hype a movie like this should have. In other words, outperforming Dumbo is far from the symbol of excellence the mainstream access media wants you to believe it is. Deadline also went further, reaching for comparisons to Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and even this year's Kung Fu Panda 4, completely ignoring how much smaller those films' budgets and expectations were compared to Disney's live action remake of their first animated classic, which isn't shocking. They do just want to push a narrative, which they can do, but it just makes us take them even less seriously. It makes us respect them even less than we already do. It says the spin doesn't stop there because these outlets point to factors like spring break timing, premium format screens, and supposed strong interest among young girls, as if those details will magically fix what's already clear from the data. Disney itself reportedly saw early tracking estimates for Snow White north of 60 million, only to watch interest plummet over the past month to levels that suggest a bleak opening in the low 40 million range. And yeah, you have Rachel Zegler to blame for that. You have users on social media who have been taking clips and posting them and pointing and laughing at them, and then they go viral. And it's really unfortunate for Disney that they continue to put out slop that isn't resonating with their audience. Because as somebody who grew up watching these movies, like the Disney Renaissance films, like Cinderella and Snow White and Aladdin and Beauty and the Beast. I love these movies, and I would love for live action adaptations to come out and be really fantastic. And some of them were good, like Cinderella was pretty good. I quite enjoyed Beauty and the Beast. I thought that Aladdin was decent, but then you have the Mulans and the Little Mermaids, and now the Snow Whites that are just abysmal because they're more worried about modernizing than adapting in a way that feels faithful to the source material and to those original creators, because of course that's just what Disney does now is they try to modernize, they try to diversify, and they're really just not focused on making money anymore because they think one day all of these decisions will pay off, but clearly it's not any day anytime soon. And heading back to Rotten Tomatoes, there is not a user score yet, but there are a lot of verified reviews from audiences, and they're not looking particularly amazing right now, going between the verified audience and the all audience. Why mess this badly with a classic fairy tale? And how on earth can this film cost north of $200 million? Anyway, the film has no heart, no soul. Rachel is a total miscast. Gal can't save the evil queen. What a terrible experience. Don't spend your money on this. It's just not good. Disaster of a remake. It's the worst live action movie from Disney. And there are some people saying it's beautifully done. They love everything about it. It's perfectly updated. Now, when I go to see an adaptation, I don't think about, wow, this is updated. I think of, wow, is this faithful or not? Does it still have that original essence? And this movie clearly does not. I've enjoyed some of Disney's live action remakes. Aladdin comes to mind and had an open mind when watching this movie. I always wondered about the casting choice. This is Snow White after all, and let's face it, Gal is objectively much more attractive than Rachel Zegler. But really, what hurt this movie the most was the poor editing and the lack of respect for the source material. I understand the motivation behind the choices made in this film, but make a new movie. Don't take a classic and alter it so much that it's unrecognizable. And that's what I've said from the start. Rachel Zegler does not have a bad voice, but it is not Snow White's voice. She is not a woman who looks like Snow White, and that's why so many people were criticizing this casting decision. But if they made a brand new princess and did a live action movie and they cast someone like Rachel for it, well, they probably would have faced significantly less backlash, but that's not the direction they went in. And when you take a property and you take a character and a story as beloved as Snow White, you're going to face a lot of problems when adapting it because the modern audience doesn't show up to support these, and really all you're doing is trashing the existing fan base. So things are not looking super positive at this point in time for Snow White. It opened 46% worse than the Marvels in the Thursday preview box office, and I will be keeping my eye on this over the weekend. Maybe it'll end up doing fantastic. I just highly doubt it. Things are not looking good thus far, and it looks like Disney has yet another disaster on their hands. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.